issue is not simply the enforcement of sanctions, which can prevent loans from going to these companies. The Iran Sanctions Act allows for far greater leverage. Federal contracts should be denied. Export authority can be denied. Military licenses can be denied. Financial services activities could be prohibited. And this story notes that 49 companies doing business with the United States are also doing business in Iran. Now, your Office of Foreign Asset Control oversees implementation of the Iran Sanctions Act of 1996. You have an Undersecretary for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. And the work he's doing, I have a high regard for him personally, but it seems to me the work he's doing wouldn't result in headlines and stories like this. This is not you alone. I have to say, in 8 years of the Bush administration, there was a consistent willful defiance of Congress, a refusal to enforce the Iran Sanctions Act passed in 1996. 8 years in the Bush administration, and it hasn't changed in this administration. Mr. Kirk and I have decided that if you guys aren't going to change it, we will. This is the Appropriations Committee. We have the power of the purse. And so Mr. Kirk and I have inserted language, or asked for language, in every single appropriations bill that says that none of the funds appropriated or otherwise made available by this act will be obligated or expended by any federal department or agency to provide funds to any person or entity through a contract, grant, loan, or loan guarantee unless the person or entity certifies that Iran sanctions is not being violated. So I guess my question to you, Mr. Secretary, is how can you persuade me that this language isn't necessary? What are you going to do to enforce the Iran Sanctions Act? That's number one. And the second question is, what are you doing to discourage those companies from engaging in illegal activity with Iran?
Congressman, we share your commitment, and we are working very hard to explore all feasible means to bring greater pressure to bear on this regime. Be happy to work with you on that suggestion. Happy to come talk to you in more detail about how to do this effectively. We will be open to any effective means for bringing greater pressure to bear on this government. But and again, happy to have my colleagues, Stuart Levy and others, spend more time with you on this stuff. This has been a very aggressive, very effective program, particularly in trying to convince other countries to bring pressure alongside ours. As you know, we have been the toughest of any country in this area, the most aggressive, but our efforts aren't going to be effective unless we get other countries moving with us. But in any case, we share your commitment to this, and we will work with you to explore any feasible means to bring greater pressure to bear on this government.
Mr. Secretary, I appreciate your sharing of the commitment, and I don't doubt that you share the commitment. And I understand that we need to find all feasible and effective means. But this is an act of Congress signed by a President of the United States. All I'm asking you to do is enforce the law. And so what's the difference? I mean, I'm saying enforce the law, and I think your interpretation is we'll enforce the law as we see fit based on our interpretation of effective means.
Of course we're enforcing the law, and we're working very closely with our colleagues in the executive branch, including the State Department, to make sure we are enforcing that law. But we want to do better than that. We want to make sure that we are working with countries around the world to bring greater pressure to bear on this government, and it's going to take more than just enforcing our current authority to do that. But again, I'd be happy to work with you and Congressman Kirk on how best to do that, and I commend you for your effort and focus to this important national security issue.
I appreciate that. Mr. Kirk and I have submitted identical language in every single one of the appropriations bills, and we will look forward to a dialogue with you.